Okay, thanks everyone. Welcome to our webinar, the Welkin Suite and Blue Canvas, about making Salesforce DX easy. We're really excited to have everyone here today. With us today is Vladimir from the Welkin Suite. You want to say hi, Vladimir?
Yep, I was muted, sorry guys. Hey guys, and I'm showing you my face for a couple more minutes.
So Vlad is head of product at the Welkin Suite, and I'm Jack Moxon. I'm one of the founders of Blue Canvas, and we are excited here to talk to you about a few different things. So we'll do a real quick introduction, just a little bit about what Salesforce DX is, a little bit about some of the benefits that you can get from using it, a few of the challenges, and then we'll do a nice demo that shows how you can make it even easier by using Blue Canvas and the Welkin Suite. And then, of course, we always love getting your questions at the end. So let's get started. So I think Salesforce DX is, probably one of the most exciting things to happen to Salesforce developers in the last couple of years. It's a huge announcement, and it's a big product. So it's not just one thing, and it's not even really a product. It's almost more of a philosophy or a methodology for doing development with Salesforce. And there's a few key principles, and these are mostly taken from the Salesforce DX website. I think one is the goal is to make collaboration a lot easier. So that's part of what Salesforce DX is about. It encourages the use of source control. They call it source-driven development. According to the Salesforce DX paradigm, it's actually your source control, which is the source of truth, rather than just the org, and that's a big change. There's a focus on doing things like rapid testing and development in a fast way. That's the concept of scratch orgs, which will be central to our demos today. And then a general vision towards more open tooling. So Salesforce, I think historically has been somewhat open, but also a enterprise and closed environment. And the goal here is to bring in the best practices that other standards use. So if you come from a Node or a .NET background or more a different platform, you're probably used to seeing more open standards. And so DX is a nice nod in that direction. And then there's reimagined packaging. So there's a few key benefits to DX, and I think that's why so many people are here today and want to look into it. The benefits, of course, are faster deployments. So getting your code out much faster, moving towards continuous integration or continuous delivery, just being more developer friendly. Those that use change sets on a regular basis or even deploy with Ant scripts know that the tooling isn't always that friendly. And I think one of the most exciting features, again, we'll talk about quite a bit in the demo, is scratch orgs. So the ability to quickly launch test environments that are kind of sandbox-esque and make changes is a huge benefit. There are, of course, some challenges, and be curious to talk to all of you guys in the questions and answers section and afterwards about what challenges you might be seeing with Salesforce DX. But I think it's early days. So it was announced in 2016 at Dreamforce. There was kind of a pilot program that went on in early 2017. And at last Dreamforce, it became announced as GA, but it's still very, very early days from what we hear. One challenge is making sure that admins are incorporated into the Salesforce DX flow. So it's good for developers, but admin work is just as crucial and needs to be fitting into your development pipeline. It's pretty command line heavy. So, clicks not code as a philosophy in Salesforce is fairly appealing, I would say, to the vast majority of developers. So moving to a very command line heavy approach can be challenging for people. And then there's some issues, right? So if we want to move towards a Salesforce DX model, is that going to be an instantaneous transition? Probably not. I imagine people will continue to use sandboxes and a lot of these other concepts, especially as things like scratch orgs are in beta. So how do you make sure that scratch orgs and existing environments are compatible with one another? As many of you know that have looked into the docs, there's different directory structure between scratch orgs and sandboxes and production environments, which makes deploying between them a little bit difficult. And DX is kind of like it's a lot of tooling. So you can do a lot with it. It's very customizable, but it also requires a lot of work. So you need to kind of know what you're doing and know how to set a lot of these things up. And that's another challenge for folks. So that's where this webinar comes in, and you'll soon see with Blue Canvas, Welkin, and DX, we try to solve a lot of those challenges that we mentioned. So first and foremost, the goal is that you can set up quickly. In just a few clicks, you can launch scratch orgs and be making changes. The goal is that it's admin friendly. So how do you incorporate developers and admins and declarative changes as well as code changes, which are all equal citizens, into a single development flow? How do you embrace the clicks not code philosophy? We allow that, so you don't have to use the command line at all, and you'll see that in the demo. I never go to the command line, but at the same time, bringing the benefits of scratch orgs and making that available to everyone on the team, and then of course deploying between multiple environments. So that's enough intro. Let me move over to Chrome and share the screen with you, and we'll do a quick demo. So what we're looking at here is the Blue Canvas dashboard, and it's kind of a simple pipeline. So at a high level, Blue Canvas, I'm going to give you an introduction to that, and then we'll talk in detail about DX and how it incorporates with the Welkin suite. But Blue Canvas is a CI and source control solution that's developed specifically for Salesforce. And in essence, it's a connected Git repository that handles deployments between your Salesforce environments as if they're just branches in Git. So basically, to deploy from one environment to another, you basically do a pull request between two different branches. We actually run a Salesforce validation, and if that passes, we both merge the code into that new branch, and we actually deploy to that environment. So that will all become clear as I do the demo, but that's kind of the high level for you. So let's do a quick example of that. So each of these environments is a sandbox or an org environment in Salesforce. So you can see I have a developer box, I've got a UAT, and I've got a master production environment. You can create as many different orgs as you want in these, but each of these environments is an org, and it's also connected to a branch in Git. So you can actually click on any of these and look and see all the different code aspects of this environment. And so the first thing Blue Canvas does is we automatically poll for changes and commit them into Git. So this is actually easier to show than to necessarily talk about. So let me log into this Courtney Martin org here. And once I do that, we'll make a very quick declarative change. And once we do that, let me just turn off this thing. Okay, so we are now logged in as Courtney Martin, and we're going to go into setup and very quickly make a change to, let's say, a workflow rule. And we'll make that change, and we'll click on save. And this is sort of a very simple example, but just want to show the way that Blue Canvas works. So you'll notice that I went in, I made a declarative change to this workflow, I saved it, and that's it. I didn't have to touch anything or go to the command line or do anything different. But Blue Canvas is actually listening for any changes at all times, and it's going to be able to push that into the environment. So if we click on the Courtney Martin example here, I can click in SRC, and again, it's got all my different classes and triggers and workflows. All the metadata is shown here. You can click on any particular class and see all the different changes as I've done so here. You can actually even look at the history of that org. So you can see who's made these changes, and you can see that 22 hours ago, I made a change. You can see 2 days ago, Courtney Martin made a change. So we actually grab the Salesforce username when we do that commit, and it's all automatic. So that's nice for admins and folks who just don't necessarily know what Git is, or there's so many stakeholders in Salesforce. You might have a marketing person or a product manager who comes in and changes an email template, but that affects your code. You want to make sure that everything is committed into Git, and for audit and SOX compliance purposes, it's nice to have that done with the actual username of the user. So we can see that our change will get picked up in a couple minutes. It takes about a minute or so to see that change. And it would be here in this workflow. So this is the workflow. And we have a nice activity stream of things that are happening over time. So you can see changes from earlier when Courtney Martin made a change. So yeah, so that's step one. So that's kind of how Blue Canvas works. So everything is automatically backed up and synced into Git in real time. And when you want to deploy, you just open a pull request between the two. So how does DX get involved? So DX is has this concept called Scratchworks. And so one of the best things that this allows you to do is very quickly, prototype and rapidly change and look at features. And what Blue Canvas does is makes it really easy to create Scratchworks, automatically connect them to a branch in Git, just like we showed you there. So what we'll be able to do is automatically spin up a scratch org. It's going to connect to a branch in Git. It's going to listen for changes on the scratch org and automatically commit it into that branch in Git. And then we'll be able to merge it back into the original branch. So let's dive in. So I'm going to go ahead into this Courtney Martin branch and say, I want to create a new scratch branch. So I go to scratch branch and say Welkin webinar feature. And that gives it a name. So here we are naming the branch, and we can give it a scratch org definition, change the shape of the org. In this case, I'm not going to touch that. And we can click on create a new scratch branch. So anyone that's played around with scratch branches before knows that it's kind of not necessarily something you can do that easily. You have to go to the command line to do it, and you've got also to make sure that it's connected to Git in a special way. With this is happening instantaneously in one solution. So this is pretty fast. Scratch orgs take a couple minutes to spin up, but in this case, I'm actually just gonna use one that we've prepared for you already. So the Sprint 18 scratch org's already been created. I can actually launch that scratch org just by clicking the single button. So this is pretty nice. So instead of having to log in and remember my username and all that stuff, we can actually launch that org very quickly. And just like we showed you before, I'm going to go into setup here, and I'm going to find a workflow rule, and I'm going to change that to workflow rule and say new description on Thursday and save it. So pretty simple stuff. Blue Canvas will be listening for this, and it will pick it up in real time, and that handles the declarative stuff. But I'm now going to pause and show how the Welkin suite integrates and pass the presenting ball here over to Vladimir. He's going to make a code change, and then we'll show everything.
So hey guys, and yeah, thanks Jack. It was really nice. I really love this. Even like when the first time we were talking with Jack about this webinar, I loved the way how we can easily switch to Salesforce DX, how we can very easily start using most of its benefits without doing any changes to our flows, because we all know that sometimes it's not as easy and not as straightforward to make changes into your flow, to apply Git, to convert all of your projects to Salesforce DX, and of course, as Jack said, to train everybody on the team, including developers, administrators, to use command line, to use Git version control. So I really love this way. And the cool thing is that we are kind of mix of both worlds. So we are using DX features, but we treat them as almost like a regular projects, almost as regular sandboxes. So right now on my screen, I have the Welkin suite, and just a very small introduction for some of you who haven't heard about us beforehand. So the Welkin suite is an IDE. It's for both Salesforce developers, and at the same time, it's for the declarative changes and for administering. So I'll be able to do a couple of coded changes in the Welkin suite, and also I'll be able to do some other declarative changes, almost like Jack done. So right now the IDE is empty. I don't have anything open here. And as we treat the scratch org as absolutely regular one, I will create a regular project, not a DX one. It's somehow easier. So I'll name it somehow. I need to enter my credentials. I can use OAuth, but I'm old school guy. So I'll use credentials from the scratch org that was created by Blue Canvas. So it's custom domain. I love the names of custom domains for DX scratch orgs. I have my very own password. And That's it. At this moment, it's like really a regular organization, kind of Scratch one. And the Welkin suite connects to it as to any other organization, like to your sandbox, like to your development environment. So right now I can check whatever items I'd like to include into my project. So I am kind of experienced user. I have experienced like Welkin for a while. So nothing changes here for me. I do the same stuff that I was doing like beforehand, before working with Blue Canvas, before doing any stuff for DX. So I will select the most common stuff like objects, everything that's related to the decorative development, lightning, and that's it. At this moment, the IDE will download all of the stuff to my local PC, so I will work much faster comparing to doing the real-time connections to Salesforce. And this might take, I believe, 20 seconds to 1 minute. Who knows? Who knows? And as I said, like, yeah, as we treat this as a regular process, I'll be able to experience all of the great features of the IDE without trying to learn anything new and without even thinking that we are working with DX. So my project was created, it's opened right now, and I can see on the right side of the screen is the Solution Explorer. I can see my project and items in it. There are already a couple of classes, some layouts, lots of layouts, subjects, lots of subjects, triggers, and even like couple of lighting bundles. So in general, like the Solution Explorer in the Welkin suite is the same as like in any other tool for development, even not Salesforce one. But there is one very important, but small but very important difference. We are not limiting you to the regular Salesforce project structure. So you can see that I have a lightning component, and as you might guess, I would have Apex controller for it. I don't want to go between our folder and classes folder. I'll just drag and drop my controller to the same folder with the component. In this way, I can rearrange anything in the project. I can create custom folders. I can mix different types of files in the same folder, so it will be easier for me to navigate in them in the future. But let's start developing something. So what do we support? The Welkin suite supports everything that's related for like development and most of the decorative development stuff. We of course support Apex, Visualforce, Lightning, CSS, HTML, JavaScript. We even have images editor. I don't know what for, but still we have it. So what's cool about Apex? Let's start from it because it's one of the most important things. For Apex, we have built lots of important stuff locally. So we have our own vector, parser, code completion engine. This means that everything that I will type in will be auto-completed by the IDE immediately. You won't get any delays like to Salesforce, like as in some other tools, or you won't need your code to get to Salesforce first. No, it's immediate. So I can just create a new account. And right here on the next line, immediately I can see this test account in the code completion. And once I'll type dot, I will see all of the standard fields. There is no custom ones, so I just see only standard fields. And also I can see here all of the inherited methods from the base as object class. The cool thing about the code completion is that it reduces the need to go to Apex reference. Instead, you can see most of the documentation directly in the IDE. For this add error method, for example, you can see that we have 4 overloads, and for 2 of them, we provide you details from the Apex reference, as well as showing you what parameters they expect. Once I start typing in parameters for this overloaded method, I can switch between different overloads. I can see whatever methods parameters it expects, and I even can see the description for each parameter once I start typing it. Please, sorry. So, and in general, our code completion is working immediately. It knows everything about the regular Apex provided by Salesforce. It knows everything about your custom code, about your subject. Everything's here. Just write your code faster and don't worry about remembering all the details about your API names or different methods. One small thing here for better navigation, for like a small time saver for you, is that on the left side you can see the class outline, which shows you all the fields, properties, methods, constructors, inner classes. You can navigate to any of them with just double click. You can rearrange it in the, like as it appears in the file, by type, in alphabet order, just whatever works for you best. At the same time, if I switch to Lightning, I really love our Lightning editor because it's really cool. So once you open your Lightning, any Lightning item, in the upper side you see a preview. But wait, right now there is nothing here because I have opened component and I'm not able to preview the component directly. I need to select an application which embeds this component, or I might have it embedded into the flags page. So the Welkin suite allows me to enter a custom URL as a preview for my component, or I can choose any Lightning application as a previewer. I have one. Once I selected the ID, you remember it forever, and you won't need to do this every time. So you can see the preview of my component right now. If I start editing, the cool things are also available here in the code completion. So we provide you completion for everything that's related to regular HTML. We provide you code completion for everything that's related with Lightning. And the cool thing is also that we provide you documentation for text. And once you start typing attributes inside of the text, we'll also show you only the ones that are allowed in this for this tag, as well as with documentation. So this is a very easy and fast way to write Lightning markup. But there is two more small things that I really love, and they save some time. So for example, if you need to reference any method from your controller directly in the Lightning markup, okay, once you do this, like once you press dot after C, the ID will show you all the methods from controller. The same stuff applies for referencing attributes of the component or applications themselves, and the ID also parse this and provide you all of these attributes with their corresponding description. For controller, we have, for controller render helper, we have regular JavaScript completion. It knows about the regular JavaScript, it knows about our framework, and it as well allows you to write your JavaScript part of your awesome Lightning applications much faster. For CSS, we have really great editor, and it's based on Windows version is based on the Visual Studio CSS editor. On Mac version is based on the Mono developed CSS editor, and it really knows everything about CSS. For example, we have even such a cool thing like a visual color picker. So I can change the color of this green bar to red one. I save the change. I press F5. The ID automatically sends the changes to the organization. So we have changed dummy class. We have changed Lightning component. Once the changes will be applied to Salesforce, the ID will immediately refresh a preview for me. So everything will be okay. And I will see the result immediately here. I don't need to go to browser. I even don't have my browser opened. I will do most of the stuff directly in the IDE. Here it is. It's really red. I like it. Yep, save the changes. For Visualforce, oops, I don't have anything from Visualforce here. So I'll create a new page. But you might guess that for Visualforce, the code completion is working in the same way. So we provide the code completion for regular HTML stuff. We provide the code completion for all the Visualforce related items. We provide the code completion for JavaScript, CSS. We also have a previewer here. The same approach, the same implementation almost, and the same comfort and speed for you. But yeah, creating a new page goes to Salesforce, and it might take some time, thanks to Salesforce. And also, as it's doing something, you can see that at the same time I have a couple of other panels with something shown in them. So one of the main concepts of the ID is to provide you as much information as we can. And in my case, it's, for example, test results. I have PMD report. I have Lightning bundles explorer. I have special panel for admins. I have debug logs, scheduled jobs. So all of the stuff is available here. I won't cover everything because it will take 1 more hour, and Jack won't allow me to do this. But I'll cover some of them. Okay, you can see my Visualforce page, the same editor, the same approach, but if you allow me, I won't write anything here. I will switch to my favorite part of the IDE, troubleshooting and unit testing, because Salesforce forces us to write unit tests, and we love to do this properly. So in the test results panel, I see my previous test runs. You see that I've played with the Scratch org yesterday. Oops, you haven't seen this. So I haven't played with this org yesterday. I can execute a new test run directly from here. So I have 2 test classes with a couple of methods. I can run all of them. All of them will be executed in the real time, and the results will be shown in the test results panel. I can still keep coding, and in the meantime, I'll show you a cool feature. So as we're in IDE, as everything is integrated all together, in the Apex editor, if the IDE detects a test method, we'll show you results of the latest test run right here in the editor. You see that right now it's question mark because we have not yet received any results. But yep, we see that this method is failing, while these 4 methods are passing. It's okay. So let's see what we have about this test method. Once I select any failed test method, I can see some of the details from Salesforce what have happened, but it's not enough for me. I need logs. I need logs, and I need to investigate it. So I will switch to the Debug Logs panel. I press download logs. This will enable debug logs on the organization. I'll rerun this test method. You can see that I'm running two jobs in parallel because they're like of different classes. Once this test method will fail once more, I will be able to open the debug log directly in the IDE because it's available on the org. So again, I won't need to go anywhere. Here it is, it's red. And now I have a button to open a log file. So I can open a log file and I will see our own debug logs viewer. In the upper part, it's a hierarchy like preview of the execution flow. In my case, it doesn't make any sense. If you have complex environments, I believe you have. It's very handy. But in the text view, we have some like color highlighting for different types of events. It's very easy for me to find an exception, and even easier for me to go directly to the code which has thrown this exception. I don't need to do anything except of, yeah, it's not yet available. Okay, in general, I have a go to source option here, which will lead me directly to this line. This is because we have two test runs in parallel. After I see this issue, what I will do in normal case, if I want to fix this issue, I'll start our own debugger. But I will do this later. Yeah, or I won't do this because it will take a couple of minutes. So we have a like pretty cool built-in Apex Retrospective Debugger. It doesn't have anything to do with Salesforce's debugger. It works based on the log files. It doesn't cost any additional money, and it allows you to do normal debug sessions, like you go through your execution flow step by step. You see all of your variables, their values, you see governor limits, you see how does this change, like things change, and this way you can fix your issues very quickly. In my case, I'd skip this part because I'm, as usual, going out of time. So I'll fix this unit test immediately here. And again, one small time saver, I've made a change in the test class, and yep. I've made a change in the test class, and I have an option to build and run tests. So once I press this button, the IDE will send the changes to Salesforce, and if you detect any test method in those changes, we'll immediately execute a test run. We see it here, and once it succeeds, I'll see it for sure. The last thing about the unit testing, okay, not the last, but still, code coverage. So of course you need to care about code coverage. You need to increase it. You want to it be good. So you can see all of your code coverage in the code coverage panel. You can navigate to any item right from here. You can enable code covering directly in the editor, so you see what lines are covered and what lines are no. I can switch to other class. And in this case, I know where I need to put my attention to increase the code coverage. But guys, as I've promised, I want to make a small declarative change because like Jack done why I'm worse. I also want. So we have special admin panel, which is like a dashboard for all of the admin functionality. Once I open this panel, I see all of my S objects on the org. I can expand it. I see all of the fields with some of the details for each of the fields. I don't need them right now, so I'll skip this part. I also see the details about all layouts for this object. I see what fields are shown, what are their attributes, what fields are hidden. I'll switch to validation rules. There is no validation rule, so I'll create a new validation rule. Test rule. And the cool thing is that I hate writing plain XML, and I don't want doing clicks in Salesforce UI. That's why we have the built-in code completion for validation rules. This means that you don't need to remember all of the API names. You don't need to remember all of the functions. The IDE remembers everything for you, and it will help you writing proper validation rules or workflow rules in a very quick way. Also, we know about the like org-wide items like user profiles, user system, and will also help you with these properties in validation rules. But okay, the last part I want to show it's editor. So we have special editor for S objects. Instead of like working with, again, plain XML, if you want, you always can do this. But instead of working with it, we have a special graphical UI for creating and modifying fields. So if I want to do any change in the account, I can do this right here. So yes, no, maybe. And I've done change to my subject field. I can change a couple of others. I can create a couple of new fields. And once I'm done, I'll send all of them in bulk to Salesforce, what I want to do. Once I've done with the new fields, or if I suddenly need to change a lot of field level security settings, we have a great tab for FLS that saves a lot of time. It takes like about 20 seconds again to get details from Salesforce. But once done, we'll show you all the fields on the left side. We'll show you all the profiles on top. And you'll be able to very quickly modify your FLS settings directly here. So you'll be able to do this one by one. You'll be able to do this like in quick actions. You'll even be able to clone settings from one to another in just a couple of clicks. It takes some time. And I'll just answer quickly a question. So how can TVS be connected to Git? Good question, Gabriel, thanks. So TVS can be very easily connected to Git. We have the built-in version control panel, which provides you all of the standard functions of the Git clients. And it's like really very easy. ID the text repository, like Git repository itself. And if like your project is in Git repository, we'll show you the version control panel and we'll provide all of the options here. But okay, here's my FLS tab. So in this tab, I can do my changes very quickly, one by one. I can apply quick actions. And if I've done something very specific or strange or cool for one field, I can apply this to multiple other fields at the same time. Once done, I just press apply, and the settings will be sent to Salesforce. So instead of going through at least 10 different pages and doing at least 30 clicks, I've done these changes, I believe, in how much? Couple of minutes. Less than a minute. So while this is applying, I think like yes, there's still lots of stuff for me to show because like all of the power of the ID and of the DX is like all together. But I'll switch back to Jack. I guess he's already caught my changes in Blue Canvas and he'll be able to do something smart with them. Do you, Jack?
Yes, thanks, Vladimir.
I'll switch presenter to you.
Okay.
And you'll show me what you'll do with my code.
Okay, cool. Let me show my screen. Okay, cool. So yeah, thanks for that demo. It's an amazing tool, the Welkin suite. There's so many awesome things that you can do with it. You can see that our changes have come in here. You can go to the activity stream and see that Vladimir's changes have come in. I can click on view diff. We're able to grab his username, even though we're on the same org, we're working in the same Scratch org. His changes happen, and that to that question, Welkin suite does have awesome integration with Git. One nice thing about working with Blue Canvas and the Welkin suite is that any changes that you push to that org, again, Blue Canvas is going to pick that up and put it into Git in a nice, clean way with the same thing. So you can see, when Vladimir changed that border color, you can see, who did it and what. So now that that's been captured, we can say, okay, well, we want to do a deployment. Let's say we want to move from our feature branch, which says Sprint 18 here, and we want to deploy it back into the sandbox Courtney Martin. Now that's a little bit tricky, as you all know, because sandboxes and Scratch orgs have different directory structures, but Blue Canvas makes that so simple, you don't even have to know about it. So we're going to do a deployment, and we're going to select our target. In this case, it's Courtney Martin's developer sandbox, and the source org, in this case, we'll select from our options. We're going to use Sprint 18. So this is the feature branch that we made a declarative change through the Salesforce UI, and Vladimir made a code change through the Welkin suite. And we can see it's pretty much instantaneous to get a diff. That's because Blue Canvas is a simple Git repository. So we're not making callouts to Salesforce each time we want to do this comparison. It all happens pretty much instantaneously. I can click side by side, and I can see a nice view of each of these. And these are all the differences. So these are things that we've created in our Scratch org in this new feature. So the lightning components, the classes that Vladimir was talking about, some different changes to objects, change the workflow rule, and I can actually click on this and see the change. So the changes that we made showed up here. You can see them clearly diffed. On the left is our target org. That's where we made the change in the sandbox. On the right is our Scratch org, which is really nice. So let's go ahead and say we want to go ahead and do this deployment. So Blue Canvas makes this simple. Again, no change sets, no ant scripts, and you don't even need to use the Salesforce DX CLI. You click on New Deployment Request. This opens up, basically, if you're familiar with Git, the concept of a pull request. So let's give it a title, Sprint 18 merge into sandbox. And we can say includes lightning changes and workflow. And what's nice here is this, we just saw that Git comparison, but these are a list of all those differences that we just saw. So if we want to, deploy all of them, we can, or we can, selectively decide, hey, we don't care about, that particular change, deleting those escalation rules or the assignment rules, we can actually change a lot of these things, which is kind of nice. So you can make selections, and that helps with validation and make sure that things pass.
So you see all the preparations I've done yesterday for the Scratch work.
Yeah, so that's all in there. So we've removed a few of these things, and I'm going to go ahead and click on Create Deployment Request. So this is now going to take just the things that we filtered out. So we're basically able to cherry pick specific changes that we want to include. And Blue Canvas is now going to do a few things. The first thing we do, because this is a Scratch org deployment, so we actually normalize and automatically change the directory structure seamlessly on the back end so that it can be merged safely into the sandbox. That's kind of step one. The second thing we do is we actually look for merge conflicts. So I don't know if people are familiar with the concept of code clobbering, or if that's ever happened where somebody refreshed a sandbox or pushed a deployment, checked out all of your code. Not fun, right? And so Blue Canvas, because it's a source control solution as well as a deployment solution, is able to check for those things automatically and handle them. So if there is a merge conflict, we show you that in the UI. So rather than just cleanly overriding your changes, we're actually going to show you there's a merge conflict. And look, our demo has one. So there is a merge conflict, and that is because we made a change in the sandbox that wasn't in the Scratch org. And so rather than just blindly overriding, what we can do is say, let's resolve the conflicts. So we can see here very clearly the change that we made in the Scratch org is here, new description on Thursday. Oh, and this is the Welkin webinar. So we can decide if we want to keep the original, keep the changes. We can also edit this and do it manually if we want to. But in our case here, I'm going to say keep changes, and keep going. So that's kind of a nice safety check. So anytime you're deploying, Blue Canvas is very intelligent about knowing what are actual merge conflicts. And we actually have an intelligent engine. So sometimes XML just gets reordered in Salesforce. Well, we're able to kind of determine whether it's actually a change that matters or sort of a meaningless change. And so you won't get a bunch of false merge conflict errors. So we've resolved that, and we're going to move on to the next stage. So we run a Salesforce validation next, and that's kind of going to get us to a point where we can set up a quick deploy. And again, this is nice because there's a lot of talk in DX about kind of a source of truth, and this comes up a lot for us where we think your source control is indeed your source of truth, but in Salesforce you can log in at any time to the org and make changes. That's why we do the automatic polling back into source control. You also have a problem where you can push things to Git all day long, and Git is going to accept them, but Salesforce is a little bit more choosy, right? So you have dependencies, and so you might get into a situation where you're pushing things to Git, but they don't actually deploy to Salesforce. And so your Salesforce org and your Git repository are very different. Blue Canvas makes this all happen in one automated step. So we did our preparation and our merge, we did our validation, both passed, you can see here, and I'm now ready to quick deploy. What's nice too is I can, as a release manager, come in the morning and click on here and see my open pull requests. I can look at previously deployed pull requests, but in this case, I'm going to come in and say, okay, looks like there's this open 1 sprint 18 merge. I can see that it's been validated. I can see that there are files that have been changed, and I can see what those are. So again, the Git diff is included right here in this deployment request package, so I can see all the code. So it's awesome for being able to do a quick code review before you do a deployment. We can also have a nice discussion here where you can say, looks good, and you can comment, and that's kind of fun. We even do emoji support, so you can add a basketball if you want to, for whatever reason. So we have that, and so now that's all validated and looks good. And the last thing we can do is quick deploy. And so when we do this quick deploy, it's going to deploy the code to Salesforce and merge the code in Git simultaneously at the same time. So once and for all, with Blue Canvas, your Salesforce code and your Git repository are actually in sync, and that actually makes your source control a real source of truth. So if someone were to come in after this deployment and just do a quick fix in production, that's going to show up in Git, which is really nice. So this will take a second to go ahead and deploy, but that kind of concludes the major part of the demo for using Salesforce DX to do deployments. I just want to highlight a few things while that's deploying. So, looking at our branches here, some of the nice features that Blue Canvas provides with DX is, again, the ability to quickly spin up Scratch orgs through the UI, like I showed you here. So you can click Scratch orgs. And what's nice about this is you can manage all of your Scratch orgs on a single dashboard. So if you're spinning them up ad hoc from the command line, it can be hard to keep track of who's doing what. Blue Canvas makes that easy. So I have these Scratch orgs here. I can create them in other environments as well. And I can launch them directly from the UI. So no command line is necessary. Again, this is a Git repository. So you know that we're actually going to store the Git repo after the Scratch org gets deleted. So Scratch orgs, as you know, have a lifespan of, I think, 7 days, I think is standard. And I think you might be able to extend them for a bit longer than that. But they do go away at some point. What's nice about Blue Canvas is because it's a Git repository, all that is going to be standard and saved in Blue Canvas in the long haul, which is great. You can launch them without login credentials, which is really nice. You can just go here to your dashboard and do that. And I think the biggest thing of all is making Salesforce DX work in a really simple way with your current setup. So using Scratch orgs as feature branches that merge back into sandboxes, which you might use for UAT and different things like that. And Blue Canvas, as you saw, makes that seamless. We handle all the hard things on the back end, so you don't have to go and set that up yourself, and you're not required to set up a Jenkins job or anything like that. And then in general, just want to close with, before we get to Vladimir has another demo he'll show, making source control and CI very simple with Blue Canvas. You can basically set up source control in a way that's super friendly to your entire team in 4 clicks. You basically can connect orgs in a really simple way. You just give it a branch name, tell us if it's a sandbox, production org, or developer edition, and connect your org. We use the Salesforce OAuth flow to do that. As you saw, there's basically no training required. You don't need to teach your devs or admins to learn Git. It's all just kind of seamless and automated, and they can work in the same flow. So having everything automatically backed up in Git ensures that every different part of your metadata is included in the Git repository. And that makes it nice so you can audit changes, if you're doing SOX compliance or just want to audit things. It also makes rollback very nice because you can see a running stream of any changes that have happened over time. And then when you want to deploy, you just do the comparison like we showed you, and you create a deployment request. And then finally, each of these is just a branch in Git. So though there are these nice directional arrows, you can actually deploy from any environment to any environment in any direction. So you can, of course, push from a feature branch in a Scratch org up to a sandbox. You can also push from the sandbox to UAT and up to production, but you can also push downstream from production into the UAT or from production into your sandbox or even your Scratch org. And that's nice when you want to do a metadata refresh without doing a full sandbox refresh. That makes things a lot easier. So you're actually much more likely to have your Salesforce environments in better sync. A lot of our customers, when they come to us, have, I hate to say this, but thousands or even like 2,000 differences between their production environment and their sandbox. And that's a problem because the sandbox is meant to be a reflection of what's going on in production. And so if they're really different, it's hard to really trust your tests or know that your features are going to work or all the dependencies are going to be covered when you go ahead and push. And so having that ability to do downstream deploys is really nice. Last thing we'll show is this is all standard in OpenGit under the hood. So you can clone this down as a normal repository. You can add it as a remote and push it to other repositories like VSTS, GitHub, Bitbucket, GitLab. We're really happy with all that as well. So if you are a Git command line ninja, you have that opportunity with Blue Canvas. But as I showed you in the demo, you never ever need to do that. So that's it for the Blue Canvas DX portion. I'm going to pass it back over to Vladimir, who's going to cover a little bit more about the Welkin Suite DX integration, and then we'll spend a little time answering questions.
Yep. Thanks, Jack. And I really love the that way and that ability to very quickly spin up the DX benefits. I don't remember how many times I've had legacy projects with very conservative workflows, and I had to spin up something for a new potentially dangerous feature, and instead of messing up with sandboxes, I'd really just start a feature branch, spin up a Scratch org, develop my stuff, and then deploy it. So it's really great, and it's a great time saver. However, there's one more thing, and I really would like to show you how you can take a full control of DX on your own if you want to go hardcore, if you want to make all the changes, if you want to change your workflow to expose all the features of the Salesforce DX. But in this time, as I've seen like lots of questions about the blue canvas, about what Jack was telling. So I will just quickly launch a small poll about blue canvas, and guys, please like spend 10 seconds of your time and answer the question. And like in the meantime, I'll open my project in the Welkin suite. So I will be able to show you how you can do pretty cool Salesforce DX development in the Welkin suite. And also, by the way, almost without the command line, because I also don't like command line too much. Like I like it, but still I need to remember all of the commands, all of the arguments, and all of the other stuff if I can just make a couple clicks and then keep developing, because like I'm good in development. I'm not good in remembering like CLI commands. So just allow me 15 more seconds and I'll switch to the.
Thanks, Vladimir.
Sure.
And we'll get to everyone's questions at the end. I'm happy to stay a little late if we need to, and again, we can answer these offline too for people. You can always get in touch with us at team@bluecanvas.io if you need to run and have other questions.
And I am showing my screen right now. I hope you see it. So right now I have a bit another project opened in the Welkin suite. So as Jack mentioned, is his part of the demo. They're like blue canvas does normalization of the project structure, and because they are very different, and this is why in the Welkin suite DX projects are completely different. So if you start going hardcore, if you want to get all control about your projects and DX workflow, you need to do some stuff and reorganize everything to the DX project. And in the DX project, in the Solution Explorer, I can also see all of the stuff from my DX project. So it's my some dummy project. There's a couple of stuff done here, like the same dummy class, some demo custom object, demo field. But the most interesting part for me and to show for you right now is Organizations Manager. So it's like a graphical UI for your CLI and for DevHub. Instead of like going to the SFDX CLI and typing in like SFDX force org display -u new scratch, I just click on it. And instead of like spending like 20 seconds on typing the command, I click on the scratch org and I see all of its details. But let's imagine like a normal case again, like I have a project, I need to develop something and I need to test something. So I can create a new scratch org. Again, I don't need to mess up with the CLI because I don't want to do this. I'll set it to 7 days, but like as a default, I make this scratch org as a default organization. If I want to go hardcore, again, the ID provides me such options, so I can select all the checkboxes. I can select lots of different settings of my scratch org, but I don't want to, so I'll use the default settings. And we'll like spin up a scratch org for you. So you can then work with it as with normal organization. So all of the panels of the ID, like debug logs, test results, code coverage, admin panel, everything will work in the same way as in the regular projects. It will work with your default scratch organization. I won't dig very deep inside of the like implementation because it's almost the same as for regular projects, but I'll show you two interesting things here. So first of them, I have a new scratch org and I have my sources. I need to match them. I press F5 and the ID will call CLI and the magic will happen and all of my code will appear on my scratch organization. The same applies to the declarative development changes. If I need to open my scratch org in browser, I can do this and I'll be able also to do some declarative development stuff. One of the very cool things in DX that I love is that I'm able to include sample data into my repository and to share it with my team and to use it in the future for like UAT testing, for exploratory testing, for anything else. So for example, it's like, again, empty scratch org. I have a JSON file with a couple of accounts. So instead of typing in a huge command in the CLI, I right click on this JSON and import a subject tree as data. Once done, these two records will appear on Salesforce. So what I will do here to demonstrate this, I will remove this JSON file. I will open my account export query because this query retrieves account number, ID, name, and account from my scratch org. And by the way, on the right side on the Sokol editor query builder, you can see all of the fields. So you can even select something more if you want. Like let's check fax, dance, and description. Execute the query, and yep, I can see my demo accounts right here. And in the case if I'll like, as I've done in my situation, I've added 2 new fields. So I can save the query, right-click on it, and again, instead of the huge query, just select to export this data and store it as a part of the project. And now I have a new JSON file. Everything else works like the same in the Welkin suite. So once you've done your changes, or once you've pulled your repository from Git, you spin up a scratch org, you do your changes, you verify that your changes are working okay. Ideally, you then create a new scratch org, ensure that everything is being deployed to the scratch org like easily and everything passes and all is good. Afterwards, you go to Git, push your changes to your Git repository, remove your scratch orgs, and you're happy. So this is another way if you're ready to give a try of like DX. It's like really great way, again, without the Salesforce DX CLI. There is still sometimes need in CLI because if you want to do something very complex or very interesting, we even have a CLI built in here. So if you want, you can write DX org list, and you'll see results of the queries or like comments right here. But otherwise, you'll be able to do all the regular DX stuff without touching the CLI and without learning at least comments and arguments. But still, you'll need to change your flow according to the DX. So I believe these were like two parts of the and two different cool ways to start using Salesforce DX, like in easy way and like how you can do this today. Just like right after the webinar, contact guys, get a trial. I don't remember, guys, do you have trial or no? Like get the Welkin suite and match all together and start using DX. Or you can try it this way and then switch to DX fully. So thank you very much, guys, for listening to us and looking at our screens and sometimes faces for the last 40 minutes, almost 50. And we'll be here online for the next, I believe, about 5 minutes. We'll try to answer as much questions as we can. I believe that we'll have to bring some of them offline and we'll get back to you a bit later. And also on your screens right now, you can see my contact details and details of Jack. And you can always write us like in emails, in Twitter, or anywhere where you can find us. We'll be happy to answer any of your questions. Yes. And one more thing, last guys, I just wanted to share one more poll. I don't know that you don't like them, but please wait it for 20 seconds. So also, guys, like if you want to have like a personal demo of the Welkin suite for your team, for yourself, if you want us to show how we can resolve some of your issues or how we can enhance your process that is working in your command, how we can even help you switch to Salesforce DX, please let us know. We'll get in touch with you like tomorrow and we'll arrange a cool demo with me or with somebody else from, with me and with somebody else from the team. And like, yeah, I'll be happy to answer any of your questions there as well.
Awesome. Thanks, Vlad. And I just wanted to chime in that, yeah, please reach out to me. You have my contact info, jack@bluecanvas.io, or to our team at bluecanvas.io. We do have a free trial account, so you can go ahead and sign up on our website, bluecanvas.io. So feel free to reach out, set up a trial, or go ahead and dive in yourself. We love to answer questions, and there's so many great questions that were here today. So I'll just run through a couple quick ones, and then we can go ahead and cover anything else by email. So quick question was, is the webinar going to be recorded? Yes, it will be recorded. We'll email it out to you guys afterwards. Let's see, other questions that came up. So there is a question, there's a few questions, at least in Blue Canvas, about branching model and permissions and things like that. So we do have a lot of customers who are consultants, and so we do have the option to create separate repositories for your separate clients. Feel free to email us at team@bluecanvas.io to learn more about the specifics of how that looks. Let's see, what else? The question about manual polls versus the listening. That's something that's on our roadmap and something that we're working with our users to kind of figure out what's the right cadence. We don't do it automatically because, or rather we do the automatic polling because we care about the source of truth issue. So we want to make sure that what's in quick changes in production also make it into the Git repository. But obviously there's a little bit of nuance there. So happy to talk with anyone that wants to talk more about that in the future. Let's see what other questions were in there. Going rapid fire here. And I have Alex on the line too. Alex, feel free to jump in with any that you can see in there, or Vlad.
I'd like to answer it like a tricky question from Ken, so like it's like really tricky for you guys and for me as well. Like since like the Welkin suite can do DX in the Welkin suite, why do you need blue canvas? It's a nice question. I believe like I'll try to answer it somehow from my point of view, and then like Jack will correct me if I'm wrong. So like as I said, like really you can start using DX with TVS and blue canvas in 20 minutes, starting from this moment, even if you listen for all of the other answers. And you'll be able like really to benefit from an ability to quickly create in queue scratch orgs to try out whatever you want without messing up with destructive changes, because I know how hard it is to try to build some kind of like continuous delivery or like even without like CI. So it's kind of magic, but still you can do this. And doing this stuff with sandboxes takes a while. You're waiting while it's spin up. While like once you hit the limit of sandboxes, you are not able to do anything like very interesting and nice. So instead of this, you are immediately able to benefit from scratch orgs. You're immediately able like to benefit from the Git repository, from the differences, from the like full contour of what was changed, and you can like pretty easily deploy stuff between one org and another, and like, no matter how they are connected. However, if you want to go like really, if you are able, if your time allows you, if you would like your team to change the flow completely, and if you want to like invest some time beforehand to convert your project from the regular one to the Salesforce DX, make some trainings, then you might use like the Welkin suite implementation itself. What do you think, Jack?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a great answer, Vlad. I think it's something that they work very well hand in hand together. And if you are interested in like a full kind of continuous integration and source control pipeline, Blue Canvas provides that layer on top, and Welkin Suite is great for actually each developer going in and making their changes. But you want to have that source control safety net above everything you do, and then deploying between environments without chain sets, which makes things much easier. And then yes, if you do want to do your own DX stuff, then Welkin Suite is a great option for that as well.
Thanks, Jack. And if you don't mind, I'll answer one more question. So from Jose, is it possible to edit custom metadata values via the Welkin suite? Right now, no. We have really huge plans, like about the declarative development part for the next, I'd say, quarter or like up to 6 months. Like we have lots of different plans for this, and I believe that at some point in this time, we'll provide support for custom metadata, but like really like safe harbor, as Salesforce already says, and like we do not have like any exact estimations right now, but this will happen.
Nice. And I see one more question I wanted to answer. So quick question, is it possible to fire validation test runs when commits are made for real CI, similar to Heroku CI or Bitbucket pipelines? Love that question because that's very much on our radar, and also safe harbor, but that's something that we're moving into as well. External CI hooks. So this is a big push for us in 2018. So reach out if you want to be part of any focus groups or testing for that. Okay, that's it from my end. Thank you, everyone. And Vladimir, anything else?
Nope, I don't think so. So like, yeah, guys, you still see our emails on the screen. So if you have any more questions, just like feel free to let us know. And thank you once more for your time. And I hope it was interesting and helpful for you. See you later on some other webinars.
Yes, thanks everyone. Bye-bye.
See you guys.